Buonasera a tutti. Good evening and welcome to the Italian Radio Hour. Io sono Viviana and I would like to welcome back our regular listeners and also welcome any new listeners. Also, be sure to like us on Instagram and Facebook at the Italian Radio Hour and subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch up on any past video interviews. Vorrei dare il benvenuto ai nostri ascoltatori da tutto il mondo. Grazie per essere con noi anche oggi mentre continuiamo il nostro viaggio per l'Italia e la cultura italiana. Today, I have the distinct honor and pleasure of welcoming a truly extraordinary guest, someone whose groundbreaking work has changed lives and whose story continues to inspire. Dr. Ignarro is a Nobel Laureate in physiology or medicine, recognized globally for his pioneering research on nitric oxide and its critical role in cardiovascular health. But beyond the accolades and scientific achievements, Dr. Ignarro is also a proud Italian-American as the son of Italian immigrants. And his journey from a humble beginning in Brooklyn to the pinnacle of medical science is not only a testament to brilliance and perseverance, but also to the strength and spirit of the Italian-American experience. So sit back and relax. This will be an explosive interview, no pun intended. And we'll be with Dr. Ignarro in just 1 second. Parli italiano? Do you want to learn, improve, or master your Italian? Istituto Mondo Italiano can help. Located in the heart of Regent Square, Mondo Italiano offers small group classes and one-on-one private tutoring in person or online to help you learn Italian in no time. Visit us online at istitutomondoitaliano.org. Well, Dr. Ignarro, to say that this is an honor and a pleasure is just an understatement. How are you today?
I'm fine, Viviana. Thank you for asking. It's really I'm very excited to be on your show today, and I hope I can share many things with my Italian colleagues and other colleagues out there.
So typically we would be asking about, your background. As I said, you are a Nobel laureate, but I actually want to go one step back and maybe we can start this journey with Francis and Jack, right? Do I have the names correctly?
Yeah, Francesca and Giacomo.
Exactly. I was going to ask you whether, Francis and Jack had been the Americanized version of their real real names, but Francesca is such a beautiful, and it's one of my favorite first names. And so it's all started with Francesca and Giacomo. If you can tell us where they were originally from and actually where they met, because I don't think it was in Italy, actually.
That's correct. Well, let me start with my father. Giacomo Ignarro was born in Napoli, actually in Torre del Greco, which is a suburb of Napoli. And he came over to the United States many years ago, in the early 1930s. My mother was born in Sicilia. She was born in one of the small Aioli Islands just north of the mainland of Sicily, and that was Panarea, which is a very tiny island. They both came to the United States. They went to Brooklyn, New York, where most Italians went at that time, and they settled down. And a few years later, my mom and dad to-be met. They dated, and they got married. So here's a situation where a Neapolitan married a Sicilian. And in those days, I think that created some complications, but they were able to get through that and they got married nevertheless.
I said I thought I said this was going to be an explosive interview, and I think some fireworks might have started at that point. But we will get to some firecrackers you actually created yourself.
Right.
Tell us a little bit about their experience in the U.S. was a little different. Their adaptation, their acquisition of the English language. So tell us a little bit of what happened to Francesca and Giacomo over the years.
Sure. I mean, when my mom came over to Brooklyn, her father, or my grandfather, was really interested in opening a farm and a fruit and market store. and he found that New York was too complicated, so he decided he was going to move the family to California.
Hmm.
So he saved his money and he did move his family to California. But at that time, my mom had met my father to be, and so she stayed in New York. And my mom and dad got married at that particular point. My father was, I should say now to start with, that my mom and dad did not go to school, neither one. So neither one went even to elementary school. So they couldn't speak English when I was born. My dad was a carpenter, a very good carpenter, so he always had good jobs working. My mom did not have a job because she couldn't speak English, and my father preferred that she stay at home to do to do the cooking and the washing and to bring up me and my brother, who was born a few years after me. So they were essentially uneducated people. And as I said, my dad was a carpenter and my mom really worked around the house.
Wonderful. And so let's kind of get to you, to your upbringing, some of the traditions, but also, like for instance, my dad was a doctor, and at the age of 8, he was already determined that that was going to be what he was going to pursue. And I was wondering if your mind was set at a very early age, or eventually you end up pursuing the career that you did, deciding the direction at later. But I hear that you were not just the calm little kid. Maybe you were,
Right.
but you were very creative.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I believe it or not, as a very young kid, starting at 8 or 9 years of age, I had a profound interest in chemistry. Chemistry, of all things. I had millions of questions in chemistry. Nobody could answer. I read many, many, many books. And the result of all of this was I learned how to buy the appropriate ingredients to make a firecracker and other noisemakers. So I proceeded to do that. I was able to get friends to buy some chemicals for me because I was very young at the time, about 10 years old. And to make a long story short, I was able to make firecrackers, very large firecrackers, that not only made a lot of noise, but also caused some local damage in the house and outdoors, to the point where my mother, screaming, threatened me, "You either stop this or I'm throwing you out of the house." So this is the destructive part of my upbringing at a very young age.
That dresser that I think might have got some hits in there, and your mom desperate, was your father equally desperate, or did he show a different attitude
And
that kind of surprised everyone?
a good example was when I went down in the basement, and there was a dresser where my mom stored the clothes that we were not going to wear that season. So this was summer, so she had winter clothes in the dresser. And so I had this big firecracker, and I wanted to see how powerful it was. So I opened up one of the drawers and I put the firecracker in and closed the drawer. I thought it was just going to make a pop and maybe make some smoke. But the result was an explosion of the entire dresser. All the wood shattered everywhere, the clothes shattered everywhere. My poor mom was crying all day. Oops, I'm sorry. Crying all day. And my dad just told her to please calm down, don't get excited. Let's find out what happened. He was excited because I was able to do something creative, uh, and he couldn't believe that I was able to do that. My mom was concerned about me harming myself and my life. And so she put an absolute stop to that. And once in a while afterwards, my dad would encourage me to continue further, but we were not going to tell mama. Let's put it that way.
Okay, we're going to fast forward then to your college application, what you ended up pursuing initially for your studies, and if, again, that path stayed the same, or if you had a little change of heart?
Well, I wanted to, when I was in high school, I wanted to stick with chemistry, and I loved chemistry and physiology. But I also started to, at the latter part of high school, to race cars. I was a really good mechanic. I could take anything apart, put it back together. I worked with some of my older friends who had cars. I could not drive cars at that age yet, but I helped them, how should I say, to build the motors, the engines, and tune them up so that the other guys could race the cars. And I became very, very good at that. And then I got my driver's license and I was able to race them myself at the track. And I brought home trophies. And so I was thinking about doing that as my business, as my occupation. But my mom said, absolutely not. It's too dangerous. You're going to kill yourself. So between my mother and my father, I was encouraged to go on to college to study what I liked best, and that was chemistry. So that's what I did.
Okay, wonderful. So we're going to at some point to get somehow technical and detailed in your explanation of the research that eventually earned you the Nobel Prize. But before you share about what happened with the with nitric oxide, but I think
Yes.
you had also some meeting with one student. So again, I think glycerin still had some plane there that trying to elaborate on some content. Oh,
Concept?
that eventually sparked the light, some
Yes,
more
yes.
elaborate thoughts about let's actually,
Right.
investigate this further. Mhm.
Well, I was teaching. I'm a professor in physiology, pharmacology, and chemistry, and in a medical school. So I was teaching students in the medical class, and I was explaining how certain drugs lower blood pressure. You know, many people have high blood pressure and they have to take drugs to lower the blood pressure. And so I'm teaching the students all the different drugs and how they work, precisely how they work. So we get to one drug called nitroglycerin,
Not agree. Mhm.
nitroglycerin, and nitroglycerin is an explosive. Alfred Nobel used nitroglycerin to make dynamite, a
Mhm.
powerful explosive. But the same nitroglycerin, if you take a tiny, tiny amount of it, is very beneficial for your heart. It will prevent heart attacks and it will lower the blood pressure. But how it did that, the mechanism by which the drug did that was unknown. And so, because this person in the classroom asked me during the lecture, how come we don't know how nitroglycerin works? What is the problem in trying to figure it out? And I said, well, just nobody has done that. And so I listened to what she said, was a female medical student, and I went, did some reading, and I realized that maybe I could figure out how nitroglycerin works. So by looking at the chemistry, how the molecule is shaped, I was able to see that maybe this molecule could be converted to a smaller molecule that might reduce the blood pressure. And we discovered that that molecule was nitric oxide,
Mhm.
or acido nitrico,
Mhm.
or acido d'azoto
Mhm.
is we the correct name in Italian. But we just call it nitric oxide or NO,
Mhm.
NO. And so that's what started the whole field.
So obviously now, this kind of looks like a straightforward process, but give us the insight of how the research works, because sometimes you just have to apply a lot of tenacity and look at your hypothesis. And, there is a lot that goes on before you get to that aha moment. Again, did your research encounter any obstacles? Did you have to reset how you were addressing the problem? Um,
Sure, sure. All of research that I know of presents you with incredible obstacles. It's truly, this has been said by many, but I'm going to say it again because it applied to my work, my career work. But doing basic research to make discoveries is truly a roller coaster ride. You have your ups and you have your downs. The ups are very happy, when you make, when you do successful experiments, that's great. You could build on that and take that further. But the key is when you have the downs. Many investigators get depressed. They don't understand why experiments didn't work and perhaps choose to go on to a different project or field of research. I've never done that. If I think I have an idea that's going to work, then I'm going to deal with the obstacles, try to overcome the obstacles. Sometimes you have to think outside the box. You have to think ahead and try to understand what the obstacles might be. In order to do this, you have to be highly motivated and passionate about your work. And that's the one thing I had, and I think that's the most important reason for my success is that I'm always motivated. If I think that my idea will work, I will not stop until I reach the point where clearly it won't work or clearly it will work, and I take it further. And I try to motivate all my graduate students and fellows around this to do the same thing.
Mhm.
You have to keep you just have to be happy
Mhm.
in your laboratory. You can't be depressed. You have to be optimistic. That would be the word to use, optimistic.
And persevere, indeed.
Oh, you have to
It's not.
persevere because, I mean, look, I lost all my hair and I'm not going I'd like to blame it on my testosterone. Maybe that's why I lost it. But I always tell my students, the harder you work, the less hair you have. So be prepared.
Okay, so well, let's get there are two different questions that I have, but I think it's since we are talking about the success in the nitric oxide discovery and
Sure.
studies. Do you remember where you were when you might have heard from the grapevine that maybe you had been awarded the Nobel Prize?
Oh, yes, this is very exciting. I was invited to go to a small conference in Nice, France, as I was on a committee to evaluate some potentially new drugs that might go to market. So I went to this conference, and the conference ended. I had a car waiting to take me to the airport. So I get in the car, go to the airport. And before that, I was walking around the beach in Nice because it's so beautiful, so beautiful. And in walking around the beach, I felt I felt strange. I felt like so serene and so calm, like it was a special day. I was going to the airport to get a plane to go to Napoli. It's only a 45-minute flight. Napoli is where my father was born.
Mhm.
And I was invited to go to Napoli to give a lecture at the medical school. And so I'm thinking all of this happiness and serenity and peace of mind, it was probably due to the fact that I'm going to go to my father's home city. Okay, so I get on the plane, I go to the airport, and I'm ready to board the plane. And one of the airport attendants in the loudspeaker says, "Is there a Professor Ignarro here? I have a very important telephone call from the United States." So right away I thought, oh my God, what happened? Did we have an earthquake? Is somebody sick? What is the problem? So I grabbed the phone and was difficult to understand because of the static. But it was one of my friends who was a doctor at UCLA. And he said to me, he says, "Did you hear the news?" I said, "No, what news?" And he said, "Are you sitting down?" I said, no, I'm standing up. I'm ready to get on the plane. And he says, you've been awarded the Nobel Prize. And so I vaguely remembered that the first week or two in October every year is when the Nobel Prizes are announced. So that date was October 12, 1998. And it was about noontime, which is when they announced them in Stockholm time, which is the same as the time in Italia. And so right after I said, are you sure? The flight attendant took the phone away, said, I'm sorry, we have to board the flight now. So go. So I get on the plane. I'm not sure whether I got it or not because he's always playing jokes on me, saying, oh, you're going to get the prize. You're going to get the prize. But then I'm thinking, how did he know I was at the Nice airport? Why did he take the time to track me down to tell me this? And so, with all this thinking, 45 minutes later, the plane lands in Napoli. I look out the window. I see hundreds of people and they're taking pictures, with the camera. So the flashes are going on and off, on and off. And I get to the top of the stairs. I'm ready to walk down the stairs. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe the president of Italia is on the same flight, but I look around and there's no president. It's just me walking down the stairs. So I get to the bottom, and my friend Giuseppe, who invited me to give the lecture, is standing at the bottom of the stairs. And he says, Lou, have you heard the news? And I said, you're the second person today who's asked me if I heard the news. What news? And he shows me the press release from the Karolinska Institute in Stockholm, which releases and announces the Nobel Prize. So there it says the Nobel Prize for nitric oxide. And then I look down and I see my name. And oh my God. I mean, my legs got so weak, I actually collapsed. And so my friends had to partially carry me into the airport, sit me down so I could recover, and talk to 200 news reporters, all from Napoli. It was a hell of an experience, let me tell you.
Mhm. So we're going to take a couple of minutes for our sponsors to give us some messages, and we will be right back with applying for Italian citizenship, need documents translation. Istituto Mondo Italiano provides certified translations and assistance services. Be sure to visit us at istitutomondoitaliano.org and schedule your free consultation. Un caffè, per favore. My first cup of coffee sets the tone for my entire day, and I get my coffee at La Prima Espresso. La Prima has been brewing Pittsburgh Express coffee for over 35 years. Try any of their in-house roasted varieties of beans from all over the world at home, or come and enjoy an espresso or a cappuccino at any of their locations, with their friendly baristas and familiar faces who will make you feel at home. Visit laprima.com to get La Prima Espresso coffee at your door. Every day to have the honor to talk to a Nobel laureate who is
Ah,
recounting the finding out about having won the prize. I do have an image right now. Maybe if you can describe what occurred, what you were feeling, tell everything that people would want to know about what happens behind the scenes leading to this very important acknowledgement.
sure, sure. So you want me to explain this?
Tell us everything,
Okay.
the
All
leading
right.
to the actual ceremony.
Yes. The Nobel ceremony occurs every year on a very special date, and that date is December 10, 10, December 10 every year, because that is the anniversary of the passing of Alfred Nobel. He died in 1896, December 10. So every December 10, we have this ceremony. And it takes all day to prepare because all the people you see here have to practice walking down the stairs, doing everything just the right way, being sure you don't step on your tails. We're wearing the white tie and tails, and you can see in mine in the center how low they are. And, most of the men don't wear dresses. So when we sit down, we tend to step on the tails. And then when you stand up, it can tear. So I have to be very careful how we move around. But here, what we're looking at here is in the center is me. I am receiving the Nobel Prize and a special certificate from the hands of His Majesty King Carl Gustav of Sweden. And his wife, Queen Sylvia, is all the way to the right. You can see her gold uh, dress, and she stands there. So once the king gives me the Nobel Prize, I stand up and I bow to him. Then I turn around and I bow to the other Nobel laureates and special guests behind me. And then finally, I turn around to the audience in front and I bow to them. And once that's done, then I move back to my seat. And you could see to the left, there's an empty seat there. So they do this for each of the Nobel laureates. The Nobel laureates are seated in the front row on your left. The first few were in physics, the Nobel Prize for physics. There were three people. Then there was one person for the Nobel Prize in chemistry. And then there were three for the Nobel Prize in physiology or medicine who were standing there. In addition, we have Nobel Prize for literature and for economics.
Mhm.
The Nobel Peace Prize winners are not there because the Nobel Peace Prize is given out in nearby Norway, in Oslo, Norway, on the same date at precisely the same time, 4 o'clock in the afternoon, that the prizes for the other categories are given out in Stockholm. So it's very well regulated, you might say.
Mhm. Yes, and so do you happen to? I think I have another picture I can share. Let's see if it's going to come up. And I think when you were saying, you have to be happy, you have to persevere. Maybe going back and take a look at your. Uh,
Oh, taking a look. Oh, that's a nice photo. I don't have that photo. You're very good at finding photos. Yeah.
I'm also, obviously I don't want to take anything away from the Nobel Prize, but
Oh,
I'm a collector of
great.
ceramics and porcelains, and
Very
it makes
good.
me, when I see those jars, some of them are like from the old pharmacies where
Yes.
the herbs and
Yes.
everything. I just like I
No, I
study, I
know.
trying to figure out the provenance and
My early degree, my first degree was as a degree in a bachelor's degree in chemistry and pharmacy. So I
Mhm.
actually was a pharmacist for a year, so I can appreciate those ceramics. But the photo you show, I went over to look at my Nobel Prize, which I had in a plastic container. Once in a while, when I'm frustrated and things don't go right, when I'm planning additional experiments or we have a problem at home, I often wonder, why can't I figure this out? I have a Nobel Prize. I should be able to figure it out. So I go back in the Nobel room, which we call that room you had the photo of, and I look at the Nobel Prize and I take it out and turn it around because my name is on it. So I got to be sure that, oh, yeah, that is my
It's you.
name. I did get the Nobel Prize. And I put
Mhm.
it back.
So this is the time where I really would like to spend a few minutes for you to elaborate on the positive health implications of nitric oxide,
Sure.
as far as because it's not just about the discovery, but as we individuals should be eating certain foods, exercising, breathing, and so forth in order to develop
Yeah.
nitric oxide and the benefits. So please take it away for as long
Sure.
as you would like, because
Yeah.
this is a good forum for us.
It's a long topic, but I can abbreviate and do this in an orderly fashion. I was very lucky because this field of nitric oxide turned out to be so important for health, for survival, health, and longevity. So this molecule is a very small molecule that our bodies produce. Our blood vessels produce it, but other places produce it as well. And so any discovery, uh, no matter how important they are, they're not as important until you find a positive impact on humankind. So nitric oxide, what does it do in the body? That's the best way to start. Okay, when you make nitric oxide, you lower your blood pressure so you do not get hypertension. When you make nitric oxide, it protects you from getting a stroke or heart attack because it prevents the formation of blood clots. So if your nitric oxide levels are high enough, you prevent getting cholesterol plaques and coronary artery disease. That is very, very clear. So what does the question become? Obviously, the question is, oh, so if I increase my nitric oxide the best I can, will I protect myself against cardiovascular disease and live a healthy, longer life? And the answer is yes, yes, yes. That is the most important message that I have been trying to get to the public since I got the prize 27 years ago.
Mhm.
And we are lucky because there's so many incredibly good ways to boost nitric oxide, ways that are free. You
And
don't
if,
have to
if
take you don't
Mhm.
have to take pills. In
I
fact,
was
there
not
are
say there is
no pills.
no the production is what we're aiming for. There is not a magic pill that
Right.
is
There's,
that because
there's
we
no
want to make sure
magic
that
pill.
people understand that and you
Yes,
tell us the strategies to.
there's no magic pill. And I'll tell you why.
Mhm.
If you have some chemistry background, you'll know what I'm saying better, but you don't have to be a chemist. Nitric oxide, small molecule, one atom of nitrogen, one atom oxygen, NO. NO is a gas like oxygen, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, right? They're gases. Also, nitric oxide is very unstable. Once it's made, it lasts for only 3 or 4 seconds. That's it. So you cannot put nitric oxide in a pill or a capsule or in a solution or anywhere. Impossible. The only way to raise nitric oxide in the body is for you to make it yourself.
Okay,
So
so
how
well, so
can you make it
yes.
yourself?
Mhm. Let's do that's the very important
Yes,
recommendations because we do have ways to do that.
of course. And let me start. There's two ways: healthy diet and what people don't want to do, exercise, physical activity. In the diet part, it is so simple to understand. You want to eat foods like unsaturated fats, not saturated fat, polyunsaturated fats. An example, olive oil. I put olive oil on everything. Olive oil is the healthiest fat to use for cooking. We use it to cook everything, no matter what the temperature of the pan. Just use olive oil. We use it, you know, all the time. Also, you want to eat lots of fruits, fresh fruits and vegetables every day. And, I'm speaking to the choir, I think, meaning that Italians eat a lot of fruit and vegetables, and many other countries don't. And keep in mind that the more fruit and vegetables you eat, the more you boost the production of nitric oxide in your body. That has been shown experimentally by thousands of investigators. What are the best foods to boost your nitric oxide? Well, one, lean meats. If you like pork, that's great. Any lean meat, but not without too much fat, because the fat tends to destroy the nitric oxide. So if you have fatty foods, you destroy it, you don't make it. If you have lean meat like pork, pork is one of the best meats to eat to boost your NO. But then you go to the vegetables and fruits. And I tell people, I ask people, what color is your diet? Listen to that. What color is your diet? Why do I say that? Because the more colorful the diet, the more you boost nitric oxide. In fruit, we have pomegranate, blueberry, blackberry, all the berries. The more the color, the more it boosts nitric oxide. And if you're interested, the color is due to something we call antioxidants. You've probably read about those all the time. Antioxidants are good for your health. Well, all these colorful chemicals in fruits are antioxidants. So eat as much as you can. Same thing on the vegetable side. What do we have? Kale, spinach, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, so many different kinds of leafy vegetables. The stronger the color, the healthier the food. So if you eat those fruits and those vegetables every day, along with a little bit of pork or lean meats or fish, fish is the best source of protein. The only fat in fish is the healthy fat, the unsaturated fat. So,
Mhm.
my family, we eat lots of fish, lots of vegetables, lots of fruit, and we drink vino rosso because that contains a lot of red antioxidants that are good for your health.
Mhm.
So I just told you what you need to eat in terms of boosting your nitric oxide. And there's a lot of evidence that what I just said is true. You can Google or use your own search engine to search everything I just told you, and you'll
Mhm.
find it to be true. But in addition to the eating, we have to do physical activity. It's clear now from decades of work that the more you move your body around, the more nitric oxide your blood vessels make to keep your blood pressure normal and prevent heart attack and stroke. I'm sure you've heard many times that exercise is good for your health, right? You've probably heard it so many times you don't want to hear it again. You've heard it too many times. Why did you hear it too many times? Because it's true.
Mhm.
And now we know why. Because exercise will actually stimulate your blood vessels to make nitric oxide. That has been measured, that has been documented and published. People who are athletes, live incredibly long lives compared to those people who are not athletes. But you don't have to be an athlete to make more NO. All you have to do, and this is true, what I'm about to tell you is true, and the US government has put this in the guidelines. If you walk 20 or 30 minutes a day, just 20 or 30 minutes a day of walking, 4 days a week, that's just as good as running a marathon. And
Mhm.
you can look that up if you want. So
Yes.
get up and just walk. And if you sit like me, like us, we're sitting, when I'm done with this interview, I'm going to get up and I'm going to walk around the block and come back. If it's raining out, I'll walk around the house, but I
Mhm.
will walk. And I walk 10, 12 times a day, every day.
Wonderful, wonderful. So you actually also mentioned it stimulates blood vessels. So we do have blood vessels all over the body.
Sure.
And one of your nicknames, the one that you got accustomed to, I think your mom didn't really appreciate it, was being the Father of Viagra.
Yeah,
Uh,
that
so
was a
tell us,
great
yeah.
discovery.
So tell us a little bit about,
Sure.
again, how the
How it
nitric
works.
oxide.
Works. Yeah. Okay. I'll explain that in a way everyone will understand it. So your body has blood vessels and your body has nerves. The way the nerves work, I mean, the nerves can come from the brain and go to everywhere in the body. So when you stimulate a nerve, it produces an effect in an organ at a distant site, right? The
Mhm.
nerve goes to that site. So how does it do that? Well, every nerve, when it's stimulated, releases a chemical.
Mhm.
That chemical might make your arm move. That chemical might make you blink or your eyes see. The chemical may make your intestines move to get the food through the GI tract.
Mhm.
But there's a neuro, and they're called neurotransmitters. Those chemicals in the nerves are called neurotransmitters because they transmit the signal from the nerve to the organ. So for the longest time, the neurotransmitter that goes to the erectile tissue in the male, in the penis, was not known.
Mhm.
And therefore, there was no way to treat the hundreds of millions of men with erectile dysfunction. These men don't admit it, but there are hundreds of millions globally, worldwide, maybe 80,000 males in the US alone that have erectile dysfunction. And also in Italia, that's a problem. It's a problem everywhere. There was no way to find a drug to treat it because we did not know what causes erection in the first place, since we did not know the neurotransmitter. My lab discovered that the neurotransmitter is our friend nitric oxide. It took an Italian to make that discovery. Even though Italians don't need any help in that area, it took one to make the discovery. And so once we made our discovery, then the pharmaceutical companies, big ones like Pfizer,
Mhm.
they read all of my research. They saw that nitric oxide was the neurotransmitter. And so, they have thousands and thousands of people working in the company, not 10 people in my
Mhm.
lab. And so they put their efforts together and they came up with an incredibly safe drug that
Mhm.
markedly increases nitric oxide that is released in the erectile tissue. And this enabled those people with erectile dysfunction now to get normal penile erection.
Mhm.
And the drug is Viagra, and the rest is history.
Mhm.
That's selling quite nicely throughout the world.
Mhm.
So that's one of the discoveries that I'm proud of. I don't, many people ask me if I've ever tried Viagra. I mean, how does it work? How does it feel? And I say, well, I've never tried Viagra because I don't have that problem. And
You
so,
have
but
enough of your own development
I
of
have my own, yeah.
oxide.
But I've been told by so many people,
Uh-huh.
and the beautiful thing about making discoveries, Viviana, is that after Viagra was marketed, I received hundreds of phone calls or emails from women, from the spouses of the males who all of a sudden were able to do sex again because
Mhm.
of the Viagra. So they were sending me all kinds of thank you notes. And
Mhm.
that really feels incredibly good, I have to tell you.
Mhm. Wonderful. So if people wanted to start educating themselves a little deeper onto you have two publications. So whenever you said you can Google, I didn't want to interrupt. I say, no, I just consult Dr. No, which is
Hey, Dr. No,
which is the
right.
title of your book, Dr.
Dr. No, correct.
Also for the abbreviation of the nitric
Exactly,
oxide.
exactly.
And then no more heart disease.
No
So,
more heart disease with a
yes.
no stands for nitric oxide.
Yes. So do they complement each other, or is
Yeah.
one in the first publication, the second one kind of starts from there and elaborates a little more? Uh,
I'll tell you.
mhm.
I'm happy to tell you. The first book, which was written, I think about 2005, 2006, I have been urged by all my colleagues to please write this book. And the publisher, St. Martin's, came up with the name No More Heart Disease because
Mhm.
NO is nitric oxide. That's turned out to be a really good book. A lot of sales. They're still printing the book. Many are still being ordered on Amazon and other sites. So, what this book describes is what I just told you, the importance of nitric oxide, what it does, how we can boost it, what kinds of foods are best for increasing nitric oxide, why is exercise important, what kind of exercise. Also, it talks about what supplements, especially in the US, to a lesser extent in Italia, you can go to a store and buy what we call nutrition supplements. You can
Hmm.
buy chemicals, natural chemicals, like the components present in the foods. Foods are good because they have certain chemicals, right? Well, you could process out the chemicals and put them in a pill. So you could take the pills instead of eating a dozen oranges, you know? So you can buy lots of supplements. They're also good. Now, the next book was Dr. No, which is a memoir. People wanted to know, people who know me to publish about my exciting life, as Viviana brought out at the beginning. How I started, when did I get interested in all of this stuff? What did I do as a child? What did I do in college? And what does it take to get the Nobel Prize? What is the prize? How do you get it? How did you get it? And how did the Nobel Prize affect your life afterwards? And how do Italians feel about your Nobel Prize? All of that is in the book, Dr. No. Uh,
Hmm.
and I had a very nice lady help me write the book. I wrote the book, but she rewrote it so that the reader could understand it in English. And her name was Robin Colucci. I
Hmm.
stick with Italians, let me tell you. And I just wrote another book on no more heart disease. It's
Hmm.
it's been sent to the editor, the publisher, St. Martin's Press. So
Hmm.
what they're now doing is going over it. They want to edit this and edit that, but that will be an extension of the
Hmm.
first book 20 years earlier on no more heart disease and give you a lot more information on what we could do to boost our nitric oxide to stay healthy and live longer.
Hmm. So hard to believe that someone that has received a Nobel laureate, a Nobel Prize, has been doing research and writing books, might have any spare time. But this one hobby of Dr. Ignarro, I think, puts together both his regimen as planning things ahead, but also a dream that,
Oh,
a
look at that.
desire
Oh
that
my
he
God.
had when he was maybe just an 8-year-old child and his father. So tell us what we're
Yes.
looking at, and are you still the only Nobel laureate with a model railroad? You
I
still
have
hold that
yeah.
that world record.
I have checked. When you get a Nobel Prize, you belong to a small group, and we have each other's emails, phone calls, and addresses, and we could communicate with each other anytime we want. And so I have found out that I am the only one who is a model railroader. I'm the only one. And I started when I was 7 years of age. I started with the railroad before I built the firecracker that blew up the dresser in the basement. I was always interested in putting things together.
Mhm.
My friends all went out and rode their bicycles and did this and then that, but I had to do something constructive and make it look realistic. I would go outside and cut bushes, cut trees, cut branches, make them look like trees. My father was a carpenter. So he helped me build the little homes that you see there and the bridges. He would build the bridges. So my dad and I got together and we just loved working together. And I must admit, I had an incredible relationship with my father. My
Mhm.
mother was good too, but she was more on the cautious side. Don't get electrocuted. Don't fall off the table. Don't put your fingers in the electric socket in the wall. She's too protective.
So in the summertime, maybe when you didn't have school, you would go and help your father in
Yes.
shop. Hmm.
Yes, I did. I helped him. He taught me very well how to be a carpenter
Hmm.
and a plumber. So I'm very handy now at my age in my home. I can do a lot of things, but things have been modernized so much that I don't know how to do these plumbing, electrical work is so modernized. So I have to I pick up the phone and call my electrician or plumber to come over. And then when he comes over, he allows me to help him a little bit. But
Yeah.
I can do most of the easy stuff around the house.
Uh-huh. Is it true that your father could draw a perfect circle freehand?
Oh, he was so incredible that I had to take him to school once to show our geometry teacher what he could do. His hands, I don't know how he did it. He had a way uh, of putting a pencil on his finger here and use his thumb on the board, and he would
Yes.
make a
Yeah.
perfect circle. And then the teacher would get a perfect circle and put it right on his circle,
Hmm.
and it was always circle. And he could draw a perfect square
Hmm.
without using a ruler.
Hmm. Wow. Wow.
So he turns out to be not just a good carpenter building homes, but in his spare time, he loved in the basement to make furniture. So he
Hmm.
was a furniture maker also.
Wow. So how long did it take you to build this wonderful model railroad that we're looking at? And how did you break down the process?
Well, I mean, some of these are newer. I had ones that looked similar to this that were many decades ago. This
Mhm.
one is a little newer. And to build this thing, this fills up a big room. And so people would ask me, well, how did you go in the center to do this work? Did you have a ladder? Did you have some kind of board going across where you crawled on it to do the work? And I explained, no. I said, I would start from one wall, let's
Mhm.
say, and build out and out and out so I wouldn't have to step back in to do anything.
Mhm.
But what you cannot see is there are many hidden compartments here. For example, the building that is next to the locomotive, the big red building, underneath the board, I could unscrew it and pull the building down and then stick my head up through the hole so I can repair anything on the board or if the train went off the track.
Mhm.
So I had to plan that out for weeks before I could start building the railroad.
Mhm. Wow. So that's pretty incredible. So I have just one last question, kind of word
Sure.
recommendations for any young scientists starting on their journey. Things are changing in science. So what would be your word of wisdom or recommendation for a young scientist?
Well, I think that there's so much opportunity out there. You know, scientists have made a lot of discoveries over the last 100 years. And so we talk among ourselves. In fact, we did that 2 weeks ago at a meeting. And just over coffee, we say, there's so many discoveries been made. Do you think that there are more discoveries that could be made? In other words, should people go into science to make more discoveries? Or maybe there's so many discoveries made already that there's not any more to be made, and maybe people shouldn't go into science. And the conclusion we come to is that we have only made this many discoveries of, endless number of discoveries that are possible. We know of so many different chemicals in the body that exist in the body. We don't know what they do. I just told you about nitric oxide, right? I
Mhm.
can tell you that if you want to work in the nitric oxide field, you should do that studying brain function. Why? The brain contains 100 times more nitric oxide than the rest of the body. And you know something? We do not know why.
Mhm.
There's Nobel Prize material. there is a job at a university doing research. So when you're going to do research, don't do what other people do. You need to be creative and think outside the box. And early in your career, make it a risk to go after certain areas that need answers. Like I just said, why is there nitric oxide in the brain? Well, that's a great project to embark on. That's curiosity. Curiosity is what drives motivation and allows for perseverance and allows you to be successful. And you must take the downs just like you take the ups because it's never smooth. It's never smooth. But if you really believe in something, eventually you'll get there. You have to remember that there's no instant gratification in research. You don't do experiments and then all of a sudden the next day you realize you have cured cancer. It takes a long time, but you'll get there. I mean, look at my case. We didn't know what caused erectile function. So I pursued that. It was relatively simple. I had an idea that it could be nitric oxide. It was. And now we have Viagra.
Mhm.
That's not that difficult. So you can do it. I promise you that each of you can do it. You just have to think clearly and have perseverance and think outside the box. And what I like to leave young investigators is something that Ralph Waldo Emerson, a famous American writer, said. And he said, do not go where there is a path. Go where there, or do not go where there is a trail. Do not follow where there is a trail. Go instead where there is no trail and leave a path. In other words, create your own path. Discover a new field. Discover a new way to go to answer certain questions. And you'll be very happy.
Well, with these words of wisdoms, we're going to conclude this wonderful, wonderful conversation. And unfortunately, il Big Ben ha detto stop, and it's time for us to say arrivederci e alla prossima. And we want to thank you for tuning in into the program. If you have any questions or comments, or if you have any topics you would like us to address, please contact us, the Italian Radio Hour at gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. And remember, if you or any of your family and friends have missed a prior episode or would like to listen to this episode again, subscribe to the Italian Radio Hour on YouTube or where you catch your favorite podcasts. And don't forget to share, because sharing is caring. So I would like to thank one more time my guest, Dr. Lou Ignarro, and our sponsors, Istituto Mondo Italiano and La Prima Espresso. Until next time, alla prossima. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao, ciao. Grazie mille, Viviana.
Grazie a lei.